My guest today is the president of Audio Z, a prestigious music studio located in the Stock Exchange Tower here in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. He's also the president of Web Cargo, which is a service that allows large files to be transferred over the internet at lightning speeds. He's a longtime friend and a very wise and humble man. Welcome, Serge Laforest. Welcome, Serge.
Thanks, Andrew. You're too kind. It's a pleasure to see you again, as usual.
Say, okay, what is the root of the problem, and how do we address that? And I think that that's a lot of comes down to the environment and respecting nature, respecting this thing that humanity is lost. It's all about dominating nature, instead of living with nature.
Yeah. The chickens, for instance, they put 50,000, 100,000 together, stack on top of one another. They feed them with antibiotic because they're so stressed and so sick that they would die. So they give them all sorts of antibiotics. They treat them in a horrible way. It's just unbelievable. I didn't know any of that. It's just unbelievable. And because the agriculture, the meat industry in the U.S. is self-regulated, which is kind of like hilarious when you think about it. So they say, oh, well, we had a farm with chickens were infected. We killed, 20 million chickens. But the way we can grow them so fast and so fat, we still make more money with this technique. But now, when you take the social impact of all the people that get sick from eating those and all the pandemics that influenza and all that, the social cost is way, 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 way higher of when they focus only on their industry. So that's another reality that is very sad. Virus we have right now is pretty benign. But he said if it was an H1N5, for instance, it could be like 50, 60% of the people that would die.
That's
so
right.
It could eradicate like a billion and a half.
We had, H1N1, right? And we had these things, COVID-19 strain or whatever, right? And I've seen documentary before, they're talking about the Arctic and how, the ice is all melting.
Yeah.
And they're saying that there's some viruses that are trapped for millions of years in this ice. And because again, comes down to the environment and abuse of the environment, because the polar ice caps are melting, that they could release these pathogens that are so deadly because we have no immunity to something that's millions of years old. This was a while ago. And that's it. It's not to say like, okay, we're out of the woods. If we get through this, we're out of the woods and this is okay. And it's another 100 years. I don't think so. If we don't start changing a lot of things very rapidly, why wouldn't there be another one, right?
Yeah. Well, they're even surprised that we didn't have a more severe one. There's been some very, very severe pandemics that happened over the last 50 years that were quenched at the beginning, and like Ebola or like very, very deadly things. But it will happen.
Besides, there's so many documentaries and books, the China Study, Forks Over Knives, Game Changers on Netflix. So many things. It's proven that over and over and over, our teeth aren't made for eating meat. Our digestive system is for plants. And it's just obvious, but we don't change. Now I'm guilty of it too. Like I try to eat as like little meat as possible, but I still eat meat. But I know that I plan for. I've gone vegan several times, but I haven't had, lasted a month, 2 months, and then I go back and something like that. But I know I'm going to go 100% vegan. It's just the right way to live.
But I don't think it's necessary to go maybe to the extreme, but at least the fact that you're conscious and you reduce your meat consumption is already wonderful. And if, only 10%, if the humanity would tomorrow consume 10% less meat, it would already have an incredible impact on the environment and on those creatures. For me, it's difficult to understand how people can have a cat, can have a dog, And when this animal passed away, it's almost as you lose a child or anything. But at the same time, they have no problem seeing animals that are killed in a very barbarian way. We're a very strange species, when you think about it.
Mm.
Wow. That brings me to a short story. I was doing hiking with a friend one day, and we saw a rapper, wrapping a chocolate bar, wrapping in the forest. And I said, "Oh, a trace of civilization." And he said, "Or a lack of civilization."
Mm.
And I thought that was pretty interesting to how you can see the same thing with opposite values. There's more and more people that are interested in meditation, introspection, and doing analysis of observing their mind. And there's so much disinformation about meditation. It's hilarious when I was talking with a very smart man. He's a good friend of mine, a little bit older than me, and I said, "Oh, you don't do meditation. You've done therapy all your life, but you've never done meditation." He said, "Oh, my mind is way, way, way too busy to do that kind of thing." And it's very funny because it's exactly why you should do meditation. And the fact that your mind is busy or not has nothing to do with the value of meditation. It's the fact that you are conscious of it that becomes the work. It's not to say, "Oh, meditation, you're sitting there for 3 hours, you haven't had a single thought, and you were just like a dead body there." It has nothing to do with that. It's just the capacity to observe your own thoughts and your thought process and how you're hanging to those thoughts, your story and all that. So this is good for everybody. So because there's this often people say, "Oh, meditation is it's good to relax." This is not really the purpose of meditation. And it's you have to stop thinking. Again, this is not really the purpose, but this is what most people think. So and because of that, lots of people don't want to do it because they say, "Oh well, I'm very, very busy. My mind I'm thinking of millions of things all the time. So meditation is not my cup of tea," which is completely wrong. On the contrary, it would be
Yes,
perfect.
the person that needs it the most is that person that has the most. I can't do it because I have too many thoughts. Well, you're the person that actually needs to meditate the most, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that would be interesting to understand why you have so many thoughts. So so I think there's a movement an irreversible movement towards this direction where more and more people are interested by different aspects of meditation. There's so many apps now.
Yes, guided meditations.
Yeah.
Exactly that help you.
And I look at Headspace. They became, I don't know, they make $100 million a year now. In 1969, when John Lennon was doing his bed-in with his wife at Queen Elizabeth, journalists asked him, because his whole things, he wanted to stop the Vietnam War. And he was very serious about it. He was doing his bit as an artist. And because he had a large tribune, people would listen to him. And a journalist asked him, he said, "Well, the problem, we have to change the government." And John Lennon said, "You want to change the government for what? For another government?" So it's always going to be the same. He says, the people that can do something. It's not the government. When I was maybe 8 or 9 years old, I remember I had an uncle that was kind of an idol because he had been a successful man in his own rights, starting from absolutely nothing. And I remember one day, I don't remember why he was saying that, but he said, "Oh, it's like the driver with with the dent in his car." And he said, "It's this idiot, that hit me, and I was not responsible at all, and all that." But he said, and then you see him a week later, he has another dent, and he has another story how this other person made the problem for him when he was completely innocent. He said, when it's been 3 or 5 times, he's telling you that over 6 months, and then you understand he's just a bad driver,
Yes,
and
yes.
you don't believe him anymore. You understand that he's just transferring the blame instead of looking at him as, okay, I'm a bad driver. I have to do something about it. He's just blaming every time there's an incredible circumstance that
Of course.
created the problem.
But the thing is it's his energetic field, right? It's his
Yeah.
thoughts and his energetic field is attracting these people. And he probably wasn't there when the guy banged him, but he put so much focus and so much anger and so much the universe says, we'll send another car to hit him again because he hasn't learned anything. And he keeps, and then by telling this story and getting some kind of weird satisfaction out of saying, look how it perpetuates. It creates the reality more and more in this field.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm always trying every day to figure out more and more is how to develop that field around me to attract all the good things into my life, all the positive experiences. And it's nothing, as you said, was perfect, but how to, I want that in my field. It doesn't matter what the person says with their mouth. I know what they're thinking because of their experience, right? That's it.
Yeah.
So I don't have to say to somebody, tell me what it is and try to figure them out. Just tell me what happens in their life experience, what they're surrounded with, who they're surrounded with, and I already know what's in their thoughts. Right?
Yeah. The Mathieu Ricard, that you probably know, the Buddhist monk, the French Buddhist monk. I don't know if you know him, Mathieu Ricard. He's a very interesting man. He was his father was a very famous philosopher, French philosopher, Jean-François Revel, and Mathieu Ricard was did a PhD, I believe, in molecular biology, and he was doing research at the Pasteur Institute in France, so very, very high level, for several years. And one day he decided he would become a monk, and he went to Tibet, and he became the translator for the Dalai Lama.
Wow.
And he does conference, and he's written several books. And he is a very, very wise man and extremely smart and very, very rigorous. When he writes, it's very, very, very well written. And so his books are very interesting on how to see the world. And in one of it, he comes to Quebec about once every year or two to give a conference, to give a talk. And he is a fascinating man. And he said the last time I saw him, he said, I did a meditation in my little place I have in Nepal or wherever he is. And he said, for 2 hours, I tried to imagine what could I have more to be happier. And he said, after 2 hours, I realized I had everything. I don't need anything else.
Is there anything that you would want to, any last words that you'd want to say to the listener?
It's spiritual that actually said that only a conspiracy of love can save the world. And I think on every aspect of what we see in the media right now, Black Lives Matter or the pandemic, the way it's panning out, or the unexpected situation that it will bring, it will always be the individual that can make a change. The government can do so much, but it's really, I think people should focus on what they can do today to make a little effort to make something better. And I think this is, when I was living in England in 83, 84, I was very poor at the time. And I had a friend that was, he was head of a big law firm over there. And he told me, and he helped me a lot when I was there. And one day I said, well, how can I repay you? What can I do? He said, well, I don't need any money. But he said, there are people that helped me along the way. And he said, what? And they told me when I was trying to repay them, no, help somebody else along the way. And he said, this is what you will have to do eventually, is help somebody else along the way. And I think it sounds like a cliche, but it is a very, very important things to do. And I've been trying in my humble way to do it to the best of my ability. And one thing Steve Jobs said in his commencement speech at Stanford, He said, I live my day as if I was going to die that night. And it sounds very cliche and very easy to say. But it took me actually a few years to actually come to this questioning. If I knew this morning that I'm going to die tonight, what would I do? What would I do? And one day very seriously, I sat and I thought about it. And I said, you know what? I would go jogging. And that's it, So it's very important to do what you like, believe in what you do, and I think try to help as much as possible. I think and try to be more conscious. This is it sounds very easy, but it's the work of a lifetime.